Reboot your credit card with Apple Card, the credit card created by Apple. It gives you unlimited daily cash back that you can now choose to grow in a high-yield savings account that's built right into the Wallet app. Apply for Apple Card now in the Wallet app on iPhone and start growing your daily cash with savings today. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility requirements. Savings accounts provided by Goldman Sachs Bank USA. Member FDIC. Terms apply.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Columbia Sportswear. It's snowing again, and that wind chill is killer. But you're not worried about that because you shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection. It's warmth perfected with tiny gold dots that reflect your body heat inside and protect you from the cold outside. No snow or chilly temps can stop you now. Go out anyway. Shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection now at Columbia.com/infinity.
Welcome back to another episode of The Blue Turf. This is Thad Bell from the Blue Testament. For now, with me as always, I have Eric Bergrud from the Kansas City broadcasting team and Sirius satellite personality at times. How you doing, Eric?
I'm good. It's been a festive week in the Kansas City heartland, hasn't it?
It has. There's like 750,000 people downtown right now, I believe, or some number similar to that. I haven't heard any estimates yet. Have you?
No, I haven't. While everybody was celebrating the Chiefs, I was on an MASL broadcasters call this afternoon, trying to make sure that we're up to the latest league standards and get a report that I think the Kansas City broadcast is in pretty good stead.
I'll say they did they tell you guys were the number one broadcast team in MASL, like we all know?
They did not say that. But there's things that we do in Kansas City that I think they like. They like that we have the referees mic'd up. And I think it makes it a better fan experience in terms of understanding what the calls are for 2-minute penalties. So they appreciate that. That's not consistent throughout the league. And we still continue to learn and grow. We got some good news about Twitch engagement over the past month or so on Twitch. So there's 5 different channels on Twitch. If you've watched Comets and other games, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on channel 1, which is where Comets games typically are. There have been more than 1 million visitors views in the past month if you add all the games combined. And so I think they're doing a good job. This league is getting people to taste the product. I think that what we have to do is continue giving them reasons to come back.
Yeah, totally agree. That it'd be interesting to see how many of those, if that's even trackable, come back for it after they've watched 5 minutes of it by accident or just discovering it.
Right. Not so sure, but I think maybe we can dive into that later this season.
Yeah, that would be good. All right. So last time we recorded, we were just a couple hours short of some big news, that's the way it goes. Really huge trade. Kansas City Comets acquired Zach Reget from Harrisburg, who had recently acquired him from Florida. In trade, they sent Lacia Dasani, Mike Da Silva, and Richard Schmerman to Harrisburg.
So before the game, let's talk about what transpired, because we recorded at the Soccer Dome, the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome. Let me make sure I get that clear. And then the news broke. The news wound up breaking after everything was done. The fan reaction was telling in terms of, I guess you could call it audible gasps, if you can read audible gasps on social media. And so for his part, managing partner Brian Budzinski was more than willing to come on air to talk with Nick Vassos and me about the trade, and admitted that there were fans that had a pretty visceral reaction to it, but ultimately the ownership believes that this is a step that takes them toward a championship. And then when the person you trade for scores 5 goals in his debut, I think that sends a pretty clear message, not just within the Comets organization, but across the league.
It does. I mean, Reget has been one of the premier scorers the last couple of years. He's deadly when he's given the chance to put the ball in the net. It always sucks to lose players that are, favorites, and all of those guys had fans that really liked them. Lucia perhaps has a higher ceiling than anybody else that was in that trade, but I also think he might end up playing outdoor still and be out of the outdoor game at least for a little while. De Silva can put in goals, but he showed really good glimpses of that during the COVID year when he was with the Comets. Last year was hurt. This year has played pretty well, but not put the ball in the net as much as they would like. Schmerman's been a pretty good defender, really great guy. It was interesting when talking to Zach. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming to Kansas City, and I have a couple of friends there, Mike De Silva and Richard Schmerman." Whoops.
There you go. Well, and I think it was tough. I know that it shook up some of the players because the players develop a very close bond on not only on the field but off the field, and so I think all 3 of them were well liked, and some had really strong relationships across the team. I think that there were fans who, not just adults but kids, who had developed relationships with these players, and it hurt them. But ultimately, it's an old adage that about it being a business decision. The Comets had an opportunity. They weren't the only team in the MASL who was having a conversation with Harrisburg, and they seized the moment. Brian Budzinski said the trade came about in a really short period of time, like 48 hours, that the deal came about. And here's the thing: to get a player of Reget's quality, you can't just beg and get him for free. You have to offer some quality back in return. And I think for Harrisburg, they got quality at each of the positions, put goalkeeping aside, defender, midfield, forward, that's going to help them. Interestingly enough, Reget was able logistically to play in that first game in Kansas City, but the 3 guys from Kansas City weren't able to play for Harrisburg as they went to Utica. So we haven't seen yet what the new Harrisburg is going to look like, but we got a really good glimpse of what the new Kansas City is going to look like.
Yeah, this is one of those trades. Again, I know it hurts to lose, fan favorites, teammates, but this is probably a trade that I think benefits both teams as well as any trade that I've seen recently. Kansas City needed scoring. Harrisburg needed more players of quality, and they got 3 guys that can all play at a very good level, can help them be more successful. It's in all of this, I still have to wonder what went through Florida's mind to trade Zach.
I'm not going to share rumors and have things I've heard on air. I've heard all sorts of things. Listeners to this podcast can go to Florida Tropic social media, because Brian Ackley did an interview with Coach Clay Roberts, and Clay Roberts basically said it was a business decision. He didn't want to get into the particulars on what drove it or not. And there are all sorts of theories out there, but suffice it to say, Zach Reget is here with a team that has a championship culture, that is driven to win, and he feels that he can contribute to it. It's ironic, I guess you can say, that his first 2 games as a Comet will be against his former team. He showed a lot of passion there, scoring 5. One of the interesting unsung things from Saturday night, that is, We rattled off a lot of stats on air. 88 games played, 88 goals scored, 320 goal seasons. So he scored 5 goals on Saturday night. If you look at the MASL leaders page, he is up to now 20 goals this season. So that's his 4th 20 goals scoring season, which is really impressive. And that kind of got lost in everything happening Saturday. But the Comets now have somebody not named Leo Gibson who's in battling for the league scoring title. That is something, and it gives takes a lot of pressure off of Leo Gibson as a player. And you're seeing him now drop back to the back line and not having to worry so much about scoring.
See, it benefits the Comets in so many ways. They're probably going to run 3 guys up top now: Zach, Rion Marks, and Junior Kazim. All of those guys are different, have their capabilities. They'll be in different situations. They'll shine on restarts, power plays. We know how deadly John Sosa is. We know how deadly Lucas Souza can be, Leo can be, Ray Lee can be, and now if you add Zach to that mix, plus a couple other players that will be in that mix, there's no way you can decide who you're going to defend on restarts, power plays. And we've sat and watched Zach just put balls in the upper 90, up where the cookie jar is, as you guys like to say, in the far corner. He can pick out those spots.
Well, you attended his first practice and you got a chance to interview him. Thank you, by the way, because we borrowed some sound bites for the broadcast. Yeah. But they drew up that play, was what I was told, the one where Leo scored off the set piece, where Reget ran through the box. A lot of players kind of moved in his direction and left Leo on the near post able to score. And so the 5 guys you mentioned, that's your set piece team. The 5 guys you mentioned, that's your power play unit. When they get a few more practices and figure things out, how do you defend them, right? Because all of them can score.
And that was the thing to remember, is that game, Zach showed up the night before. That practice, it was the one practice. They typically do a little very light practice the day of a game, and they did stretching, they did soccer, tennis. Basically, he participated in that, and then they started doing set pieces or restarts at the top of the box, that sort of thing. They had different people in there, but they ran Zach through it, so he didn't even participate in all of that, and he had no time to actually learn his teammates' moves or any of that sort of thing. And as they learn him and he learns them, which foot to put it on or exactly where he wants it, how he'll turn, that sort of thing, it should just improve. But just watching him in that little abbreviated practice, they would go to him for a few, and he just kept putting the ball in like corners and top shelf and stuff. And I'm like, why are you going to go to anybody else, man? I mean, I know you have to, but they practice exactly that, was that running through and pulling everybody with them, and it works so many times.
So it's going to be interesting because we haven't talked a great deal about the game this past weekend, other than the fact he scored 5 goals. But then they fly down to Lakeland this weekend and get a rematch there. And the Comets know they need to start winning on the road. We talk about it all the time, Thad, and we're getting to the point of the season where you have one eye clearly looking at the playoff structure and trying to figure out where you're going to land. Well, ultimately, if the Comets want to win a championship, they're going to have to win games on the road, because they will not have home field advantage in the finals, probably not leading to the finals. And it's going to take the ability not only to hold service at home, but to go into somebody else's arena, not hope for a win, but know that you can go in there and beat them. That's a different mentality.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go back to this last game for another thing that I noticed. It's just a little moment that when Junior was taken down and the Comets were awarded the shootout, and typically that's one that Sosa will take, or Leo might take, or somebody like that. Sosa walked over, picked the ball up, called Zach over, and said, "It's yours." He could have taken that. He could have scored. He could have, I don't know if that would have been his 100th goal at that point or whatever. It would have been the next one after that, but it was just a classy thing from Sosa to give that to Zach and let him get that first goal for the Comets, which then kind of just extended the floodgates.
Well, I think it did. And I asked him about it in the post-game interview, and I think that he appreciates his teammates welcoming him here. I saw a quote from Sosa in today's Kansas City Star that what he appreciated was Zach's humility. So he comes in here and he doesn't assume that he's the king of the hill. He's got to learn his teammates and prove that he fits on this team too. So I think there's mutual respect there. You saw that on the field, and he keeps scoring goals like that. Yeah, the Comets know where they've been lacking this year, and all of a sudden you have somebody who arguably could be the leading scorer in the league. It's going to take a little bit to top Frank Taillou this year, but we'll see how things go, right?
Yeah. I doubt that they catch him, but you never know.
That opens things up because you saw Lucas Souza with two good goals, right? Last game. John Sosa, 2 goals, 3 assists. It's not going to be Reget doing all the scoring, but I think with him out there, it creates more opportunity, and everybody gets fed if you want to look at it that way.
Well, it just doesn't allow any team to focus on 1 or 2 people on a line right now. So that's going to give the Comets more opportunity when they can't just defend Leo or Sosa or Lucas, who have been carrying the team in most of the goals. So, all right. I did go back and look out of curiosity because somebody had asked Zach if he had ever scored that many before, and he had scored 5 goals in a game before. And interestingly, it was after he'd left St. Louis and went to Florida, he scored 5 goals on St. Louis. Not in their first meeting, but their second meeting. He not only had 5 goals, but he had also 3 assists. So it was an 8-point game for him that day.
Imagine that. So what was interesting, and I didn't ask anybody of it, but I don't know if you noticed after the game that Tropics coach Clay Roberts had a private conversation with him on the field. Not sure what that was about. I think in his interview that's on the Florida Tropics social media accounts, you'll see he's trying to move forward. Clay Roberts is. It's going to be interesting there, though, on Sunday, because you would have to think there's going to be a contingent of Florida fans rooting for Reget there. And so it's going to be interesting what the dynamic is in that building. And we'll see. It's been a challenge in recent years for Kansas City to go in there, but I think they'll come in with confidence this Sunday afternoon.
And this is a moment when Kansas City needs to win. Like we've talked about, that winning on the road, they're going to have to learn to do that this season and get better at it. It's a team that they're fighting for the second spot. It would be extremely difficult to catch Milwaukee at this point. They're just playing too well, but it is completely within the realm to pass Florida at this point, because they're playing each other 2 more times. They're tied in points. They're tied in the standings. St. Louis actually did the Comets a favor when they beat the Tropics the next night. So thanks to the ambush for a change. And so the Comets do need to do this. They need to get that point. They need to go down there and win. And is this the perfect opportunity for Zach to go down and show his former fans how good he can still play?
Well, I think we're past the, no pun intended, the point where we were several episodes where we were talking about the Comets need to go into City X and get a point, like an overtime loss, and that would be successful. I think that ship has sailed. When however you do it, regulation, preferred overtime if you have to, but as you said, right now they're in a neck and neck battle with Florida, and any points you grab from them, that puts you ahead of them in the standings. And at the end of the season, you don't want to regret, well, in February, if we had just done X, maybe we would be hosting this series rather than being the visiting team. So I think this team is confident. I understand that the trade was a big shock inside the locker room and for fans as well. But I think this team will get reacclimated, and I will contend what I did at the beginning of the season. This is a team that can win the championship, but we'll see. They have to prove that they can be consistent on the road. They don't have to do that for me, right? But they have to do that for themselves and for their opponents, that they walk into somebody else's arena. Just like when the Sockers walk into somebody else's arena, there's questions, there's doubts. Oh, we have to play them, 16-time champion, et cetera, et cetera. This used to be the Comets not too long ago. They were going into other people's arenas, and you had the sense they were going to win there.
Absolutely, and they need to recapture that. It's actually, I mean, not only the Reget trade, but they're catching the Tropics at a good point, because I think they've lost 5 of their last 6, and that's both on the road and at home. It's a good chance to go in and catch them when they're not doing well. You like you said, 3 or 4 episodes, we were talking about various things, but we were not even looking at Florida maybe as being catchable if they just continue to play well. Well, they didn't, and Comets have caught them, taken their best scorer, and now it's a chance for the Comets to continue to ascend and Florida to struggle, if we can kind of hope for that as Comets fans. But this is what the Comets need to go do, is they need to go down and secure that win and take advantage of a team that's not doing well.
Well, because you look ahead at the schedule, you get past Florida, and then you have Milwaukee and Baltimore and Milwaukee and Baltimore. So these are the teams that are all in the mix for the top spots in the Eastern Conference. So every game is pivotal now. And so sure, with those Western Conference games, all of which the Comets lost, you can shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, now we're at a point where everything matters, and you have to be focused on that next game, because the ultimate prize is a return to the championship.
All right. One other little bit of news that I just actually accidentally came across looking through stats was the Comets signed another goalkeeper.
I have no details on it, although I think we'll get details after we post this podcast on air. So
yeah, I actually asked about it.
Name. I can tell you what I know, but I don't know everything. I don't know the whole story.
Chris Tito Favela. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but close enough.
So let's talk a little bit about Tito. So he is from Kansas City, played for Nick McDonald, Sunflower State, indoor. He played last season in the goalkeeper shuffle in St. Louis. And I don't know if you remember this, that he wound up playing against the Comets after another one of those goalkeepers who've gotten bounced between teams. Sway got 3 blue cards and was ejected from the game at Cable Dome Arena, and Tito came in and finished it. He's been playing in the M2 for the Kansas Bandits. It's an expansion team in Dodge City. And so he's been staying in indoor shape. I don't know the whole story on this, and the Comets haven't formally announced, but I noticed this yesterday on the MASL site when you look at transactions. And so we'll see what the formal announcement is in terms of what his role might be with the Comets.
Yeah, I actually just asked about this about an hour ago, because I was doing the same thing, looking through the site, and came across the signing and have not heard back yet. So we'll find out.
Stay tuned. I think it'll be later this week when we'll hear something official.
Yeah, I just assume he's extra keeper to be back up, and
we'll see. We're not starting, fans. We're not starting any rumors. All we are is reporting that he was signed. It was posted on the league website before the Comets have sent out a news release, so it's a little premature for us to project what's going to be in the release.
Yeah, so we'll find out more details and let you know as soon as we know. All right, anything else we need to talk about today, Eric?
I think it's worth mentioning. You mentioned Milwaukee. Kudos to them. They went into St. Louis Friday night while the Comets were hosting Florida, and they shut out the ambush, which in indoor soccer, anytime you can get a shutout, that's impressive. Doing it on the road is almost unheard of. But great goalkeeping. Willie B got banged up a little bit, so Augie Ray came in. So this is a rarer thing. Shutout on the road with tandem goalkeepers doing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the defensive player of the week is a co-defensive player of the week between Bonahene and Augie. We'll see. but they keep winning. They win on the road, and if you go back to the Comets series against St. Louis, sure, Kansas City won all 3 games at Cable Dahmer Arena, but they had an overtime loss, an overtime win, and an overtime loss in those 3 games at the Family Arena. Twice now already, Milwaukee has gone to Family Arena and gotten all 3 points, and that explains the challenge the Comets have. Is they've dropped enough points already that it's going to be really hard to keep up with Milwaukee, unless Milwaukee experiences something similar to what Florida is currently experiencing right now.
And that's why I said earlier, I don't look at the Comets probably catching Milwaukee. I mean, it would have to be something pretty drastic at this point.
I don't think they have to. And I'm not selling the regular season short here, but ultimately, people are going to remember who hoisted the cup. And I will say this until I get blue in the face or people tell me you can't say the story anymore. During the COVID season, the San Diego Sockers had a losing record in the regular season, and the only reason that they qualified for the playoffs was the fact that every team in the league qualified for the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
Guess what? They won their 15th championship, and nobody is putting an asterisk on it. Ultimately, if you play well enough at the end of the season and progress into the playoffs, it's going to be whoever hoists that cup is the team everybody's going to remember. And Kansas City is moving in the right direction. I can say that with more confidence today than I could have a month ago.
Yeah, it's teams looking like what we thought. Again, we've got really one game, couple games, but really one game to base this on. So we need to not necessarily be over enthusiastic, but they look like the team we thought they could be, and we'll have to see if that continues.
So what have we been saying in previous episodes, that a team that scores 4 or 5 goals a game in the MASL is probably not going to win a lot of games. Zach Reget scored 5 goals by himself. They put 12 on Florida. Now, granted, Florida isn't the top defensive team in the league, but they have 2 former defenders of the year, plus Mike Jones on that defense. So that was a lot of goals scored against 3 of the premier defenders in the MASL. And so perhaps that's a sign of what Comets fans could look forward to the rest of this season.
I'm looking forward to a lot of goals. All right. Let's see. Any last words, Eric?
Looking forward to Sunday's game, and then Milwaukee. Well, we'll have a lot to talk about next week's episode, Thad, because I would suspect we'll see the full complement of players. Milwaukee is not playing any other games that weekend, so we'll get a sense of where both teams stand after this weekend, and I expect that one to be a battle that fans do not want to miss.
Absolutely. All right. I will talk to you later. We'll have a game on Sunday, and without any other last words, we are out.